Hello and welcome, esteemed Civilization VI leaders. I'm Machine Dana, and today I'm going to be going through some advanced multiplayer tips that you can use in your games. Most of these tips are useful in normal one-player game modes as well against the AI, but some of them are exclusively sort of driven towards multiplayer games and LAN games, environments where it's potentially going to be highly competitive, either in a formal way or just competitive between you and your friends. If you enjoy this content, please feel free to like the video. It really does help the visibility of the video. And if you want to see more content from me, hit the subscribe button as well. Without further ado, let's get into the video. Using landscape to understand proximity and to plan. So, most people may already know that tundra is in the north and south of the map, but not everybody knows that there is grassland underneath that on the top and bottom of the map, and then it goes to desert, and then it goes to, you get forestry in the middle. You can't really see it on this particular map, but it does happen. You get that sequence. So you get tundra, you get grasslands and plains, you get desert, you get rainforests and forestry, and then you get more desert, grasslands and plains, and then back down to tundra again. Why is this important? Well, the reason why this is important, when you're starting a game, you need to understand where you are in proximity to potentially other civs and certainly on the map. It helps you to get goody huts more quickly, which can give you a very big edge early on in the game. You don't want to be exploring too far north if you know, for example, that you are likely to be the only civilization in the north. So if you know that you're landlocked into a particular area, you're probably going to want to be expanding south, which will give you the biggest chance, the highest chance of finding first meets with the suzerain states. To get the bonus with the city-state, and also it gives you the best chance to give you the most tile uncovering, which will then give you more intel, which will allow you to be able to know exactly where you should place your cities. So understanding that as early as possible will help you make strategic decisions within the game. It'll also help you decide on whether or not it makes sense to go to war with other civilizations or keep peace with them. So just understanding the characteristics of the map can make a huge difference. One caveat here is that if you do change the settings heavily, you can, or use mods for that matter, this doesn't necessarily apply, but in the vast majority of games that you play, that sequence of tiles in the game on the maps will apply. Choosing key focus, victory type, or game-changing objectives as early as possible in the game will make a big difference to the success of your game. It may be the case that your landscape, for example, relies on you going for a certain wonder or taking a certain approach or settling cities in a particular location. There are a number of factors that can affect that, but making those decisions as early on as possible in the game will help you win, but also focusing on those things will make a huge difference as well. It's no good thinking I might go for a science victory and then seeing halfway through the game and then deciding that you might not do that. Sometimes it makes sense to change the victory type that you're going for, but in most cases to choose the focus or the victory type that you're going to go for will benefit you. But not only that, having a really clear picture on the objectives that you want to achieve within a game make a big difference. I'll give you a good example here. I know with this particular map, I knew pretty early that I had the mountains along here, so a peninsula of mountains I was able to get science adjacency bonus against. So I knew that playing a science game was probably going to be quite strong here, but in particular combined with the hills that I had here, I knew I would have pretty good production. So in my capital city, I've got 177 production. I also had some river tiles here, 2 different rivers that I was able to sort of build some engineering against, which would allow me to get some very high yields. So when I go on the view here, I've got a +10 and a +9 industrial zone, which is pretty high for a couple of my cities. So in conjunction with the science adjacency and the production bonuses, I knew that I would be able to play a relatively strong science game here, but I was only able to make those decisions as a result of evaluating the landscape, choosing that focus as early as possible, and then doing the right things to enable that to happen. Another example of this would be also the wonder type. I knew that I wanted to go for Ruhr Valley because that gives me a 20% boost to production in the city that it's built. So that's helped Bogota get a pretty high production stance. I needed to plan the tile placements and the district placements to enable that to happen, but racing towards Ruhr Valley was very beneficial in this particular game. Using the settler lens to determine what may or may not be in front of you in a game, a multiplayer game, but also in single player as well, can be very advantageous. The reason why this is advantageous, getting a first meet on a city-state does allow you to get a single free envoy in the city-state, which means the capital city will get a bonus for whatever the city-state type is. For example, if you meet a faith city-state first, you will get 2 free religion points per turn if you've met them first, and you get the envoy in there. So it can be quite advantageous in the early stages of a game. These little things early on do make a significant difference down the line in the game. Now, to access the settler lens, most people probably already know this anyway, but perhaps have not used it in this context. You click on the lenses here and you click settler, or if you go into options menu, you can see on the key bindings, the lenses section here, you can set a key bind against it. Here it's set as number 4 by default, but you can change that. So as you're going along, you can literally just press 4, or you can just click the lens and you can see what's in front of you. It's probably more important for the city-states, but it also can help determine when there are other civilizations that are in the shroud as well. Now, I've just played this game a little bit, and I can see there are 3 tiles here that are marked as red. So red are areas I'm not able to, it's primarily designed to show recommendation for city sites, and any recommendations where you simply cannot place the settler are shown as red, and obviously the grey is no water and different water types and that sort of thing. So, and because cities within the 3 tiles from a city, so tile 1, 2 and 3 from the city, you're not able to settle a city. For example, here it's tile 1, 2 and 3. Nobody can settle a city in that red zone. You're able to get essentially like a 3 tile head start on where things are on the map. So I'm pretty confident that when I end this turn, it will show me that I've got either a civilization or a city-state in this tile, and that gives you early intel. There you go. So I crossed the river and I saw Nan Madol was there, and as it happens, it was the first time I met that city-state. What that means is, for Nan Madol, I've got a single free envoy in there. We go on there, plus 2 culture in the capital. So that, for obvious reasons, can be very advantageous early on in a game. Using strategic view mode when having wars. Now, this particular tip is only useful when you're fighting against humans over the internet, or potentially over LAN as well, although it's less applicable for LAN. What this entails, first of all, you want to quickly go to your options and stick on, within the game mode, quick combat and quick movement. That'll mean that you've got the quickest possible way of moving units around. And then what you then do is click on this toggle strategy view here, which completely changes the view of the map. Most of you will probably be aware of this already. This is something that's been in the game for a very long time, but when you use it for war, it does quite dramatically speed up the ability and speed and the pinging of the moves that you make in the game to the server. This actually does give you an advantage in game because your computer is doing less processing and is able to send a message to the server and ping it more quickly, potentially, than somebody else. You don't necessarily need to use this for all of your war, but when you're having key moments within the war where you need to hit the server before somebody else, this is a really important way of doing war. This obviously is not really applicable when you're in single player, and the reason is because obviously in single player you don't have to worry about turn times. In single player mode you get sequential turns, meaning you take your turn independently of the civs, whereas in online mode the turns are simultaneous and the speed at which you do something can then become quite important. Micromanaging your cities and citizens at key points in the game is going to be quite important for you. In multiplayer games, you don't get a hell of a lot of time normally to manage citizens in every single city, particularly when you get to mid and late game. So it's not really feasible to manage your citizens every single turn, but at key points in the games, it will become really important. Most people probably already know this, but just for the benefit of those that don't, you can click on cities, click on manage citizens, and the population in the city is how many essentially heads or citizens you can work. You can then click on various tiles to lock them in, or click on them to unlock them. Along with that, you can also choose a particular focus for the cities as well. For instance, cities that are not doing so well on food. This particular one is not doing very well on food, so I've put the focus on food. However, if it got to the stage where I needed extra production, I could then change this city to focus on production stuff for war, or if I was pushing sort of mid-late game for science, I could then focus on science or religion and that sort of thing. Again, it's not something that you would choose to do every single turn, but every now and then taking a look at all of your cities, or at very least in the game changing moments within the game, like someone's declared war on you, or you're getting close to the end game, or maybe you've just settled a city, key points in the game. It's worth looking at that manage citizen screen, and that will help you significantly. Sometimes the game does some pretty funny stuff when you go on the manage citizens tab. Sometimes you'll just see that certain tiles that you think would have been getting worked and not, and in those instances, like for example here, you might want that. It makes good sense, even though in this particular tile I've not got much food and the city is struggling for food. That's a +5 production tile. I'm probably going to want to be working that particular tile. Taking advantage of friendships and allies in the game will make a big difference in the success of your game also. So this is quite a key tip really, and it's applicable to both single player and LAN/internet games, so multiplayer games. It's probably, I would say, more important when you're playing multiplayer games. So being able to control almost like the pace of what you do and the pace of the game in dependency with the people around you is obviously quite important. If you know, for example, that the people around you if you've got a high confidence that the people around you are friendly, then it allows you to build up your civilization or focus on the things that you know will win you for the chosen victory type, the things that will win you the game. So it's really important to try and get a feel for the people around you, but one way, obviously a strong indicator of this is if you are friendly with somebody or if you are allied with them. So obviously being friendly with them, the game allows you to declare war on a friend, so you do have to still be mindful. If you are friendly with someone, they can still go to war with you, but there are normally some pretty clear indicators if somebody is going to do that. An increasing military score, for example. If you see that gradually increase but without them telling you about other civs that they want to go to war with, that's a red flag for sure. But also, having units on your borders, or if the friendship is about to run out and you see some really odd changes. If they're in good communication with you and over multiple friendship rollovers, I think friendships last maybe 30 turns or something. If that lasts for multiple rollovers, there's a pretty good chance that the friendship is a genuine one online, or with one of your friends, but certainly with single player as well. So, why is this important? Well, friendships are at least a deterrent. If someone's got to think really long and hard if they're going to declare war on you after calling you a friend. So that's one thing. It's a direct betrayal if they do that. However, if you want to be completely sure, you can also go to a military alliance with them as well. Any alliance will prevent a war. So, I mean, you can have up to 5 alliances on this game. Most people will probably know that already. When you have an alliance with a civilization, they cannot declare war on you. They cannot attack your cities, they can't attack your units, they simply cannot declare war on you. So a surefire way of knowing that you are strategically safe from a military point of view, from a war point of view, is to have an alliance with somebody. It seems pretty obvious, but a lot of people don't necessarily think to do that. Now, to have alliances in-game, you need to have for those that don't know it, you need to have the civil service card. That gives you the ability to establish alliances. The other civ will also have to have that same civil service. And then you can go into the civilization menu. You can obviously declare friendship with them and then have an alliance with them. Now, this is the alliance tab here, and it shows you what level the alliance is. A key one is the military one because it gives 5 combat strength against units of players at war with you and your ally. So a good tester in multiplayer is if you can get the other person to declare war on a civ that you want to go to war to. That's sort of proof that they are willing to be proper allies with you, perhaps into the long term. So being able to leverage this will give you key intel, key information. It gives you almost like a safe zone barrier, I would say. So that's a really, really key tip for multiplayer. And the final tip I would say is to continually evaluate your placement against other civilizations. So also the likelihood of you winning versus other civilizations winning. Again, it seems like a fairly obvious thing, but sometimes when you get so caught up chasing your particular victory type, or even just playing the game, sort of, it would be that casually or competitive, you can lose track of what other civs are doing. It's really important that at regular intervals you're acutely aware of what win types may stop you from winning. I can't count on my fingers and toes the amount of times that I thought I've had a victory type, I've been so confident I'm going to win, and then I've got so wrapped up in something that's been going on within the game that, you know, there's been a curveball and perhaps civilization has got a diplomacy victory or a cultural victory over me or something like that. So it's normally pretty obvious, you know, to do this, but if you go to the score tab here, the world rankings, if you've got a score victory, obviously the person with the highest score, and there's obviously the turn type here. This particular game, 189 of 500. I clearly don't need to be too worried about the score victory type. Science, there are these 5 blocks that you can go through, and they fill up as they do the various things. For instance, build a spaceport, research rocketry, and launch the satellites, the Earth satellites. That will start to fill up, and the space projects and so on. But also a clear indicator that if you look at the overalls, you can see people's science. So this, in this instance, Pachacuti and Pedro, they've both got 41 technologies researched, and they're making 152 and 134 science respectively. So I can see that on 40 techs and 162 science per turn, I'm in a pretty good standing for science, but I do just want to keep an eye on those civs. Cultural, you can look at obviously the tourism outputs, the visiting tourists and the domestic tourists. Obviously as those numbers get closer and closer together, the closer the cultural victory type is. Domination, you need to have all of the capitals of the other civs. In this particular game nobody has a capital yet, so I know domination isn't a worry for me. But that obviously can change relatively quickly. Religion, there are probably three civs here that could be in the running for religion type, but they will also battle each other out. And again, you can look at the religion here, the amount of cities they've got, 19, 27, 27 and 21, all on 4 civs relatively at the same level in terms of cities captured. The worry of losing to a religious victory is probably pretty low at this point. Finally, you've got diplomacy. I've made sure to keep high on diplomacy in this particular game. I've kept relatively peaceful. In a science game, you are normally able to do that, but this is probably one of the worst victory types to lose to, because it feels like an empty victory type, particularly when someone hasn't particularly worked hard at it and all they've really done is perhaps donate a little bit of money to civilizations or guess some of the United Nations projects correctly and that sort of thing. So it's always worth, it seems like a really, really obvious thing, but just keeping an eye on the victory types of the other civs in the multiplayer game is going to help you significantly. It can also help you to determine the likely next steps that civ is going to take. It might be knowing what cards they're going to go for on the civic tree, or what technologies they may be going for next, or cities that they might need to destroy or focus on next, and all that sort of stuff. But having that intelligence can significantly benefit you in a game. So that's the end of the list of tips. If you enjoyed this content or if you found it useful, please feel free to like the video. It really does help me, and I do appreciate it a lot. And if you want to see more of this type of content, let me know in the comments. Thanks a lot for tuning in, and I'll see you next time.